Once again, I have no idea what time it is. My phone says it's 12:55. My Breitling says it's 12:54. That's wrong. But my iPad says it's 1 o'clock, and YouTube thinks it's 1 o'clock. And unfortunately, I got to go with what YouTube says because they're the ones who are running the show here behind the scenes. Anyway, we got a bunch of people in the room, and I'm glad to see that. Our retired butcher boy is here. Johnny Knoxville points out it's 82 and mostly sunny in Bad Axe, Michigan. It would be a good time for drinking and canoeing. Susan Johnson from Ypsilanti. Amy X, hello world. Hello, Amy X. Boy Cat Sapiens feels like 100 of a wee, but I was out of the office for a couple of days and I decided not to shave in the interest of trying to save some time. And then I thought, maybe I should give this another go. Let's just see what happens. So I'm not sure. It's an experiment in progress. We might not stick with it. Neil from Palm Springs checked in. The question is, are you having trouble or not? Because I've had a couple little comments down here and I've had a couple little issues pop up on my screen. But once again, I've got nothing that I can tell you. Video keeps freezing and buffering. Rand Thompson. And Susan Johnson says it's good now. Hobie Jackson's back now. Johnny Knoxville, yeah, freezing. Wayne Fogel, it's okay now. I don't know what to tell you. I can't do anything except for funnel what I do into this thing and hope it works, for which I apologize. So Joel Kirschman says the stream is back mostly. Would it help if I spoke every other word to give it half as much work to do? Okay, I'm just going to plow ahead. I have to point out I got some really cool mail recently, and I forgot to mention this last time, but I got an email. I got an actual paper mail, analog mail from somebody. It says, Steve, enclosed are 4 genuine Ford swollen lug nuts from a 2014 Ford Focus manual transmission. If you wanted to see what they look like, maybe use them as an Explorer wheel theft deterrent. Mike from Springfield, and he sent me some swollen lug nuts. I've done videos on those, and you can see that they are in fact swollen to the point where they would not fit inside a lug wrench. So, I'll put those on the set behind me. And if Matthias checks in from Germany, I got something from Matthias as well, but I'm going to wait till he checks in to say hello to him and talk about it. Johnny Knoxville, viewer mail. I was out of town for a couple of days. I mentioned it. I was up north. By the way, this is pretty cool. I was in Copper Harbor, Michigan for a few days. I got recognized by 3 different people in different places on different days. And I was sitting in a restaurant called Lake Effect in Copper Harbor. And a guy comes up and goes, excuse me, are you Steve Lehto? And I go, yeah. And he goes, I'm a viewer from Colorado. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. We sat and talked for a little while. I saw him the next day in another restaurant. It's a very, very small town. Then the next day, I'm sitting at the Mariner North at lunch, and an older couple comes by, and the husband says, are you Steve Lehto? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I'm a big fan. I watch your videos all the time. Said, thank you. What are the odds? 2 people recognize me in Copper Harbor. The next day, I'm sitting at the Tamarack. There's another guy sitting at the table over, and every night he keeps looking at me. And finally he goes, excuse me. And I go, no way. He goes, are you Steve Lehto? It's almost like the town of Copper Harbor was pranking me, but these guys didn't know each other. It was very, very funny. So I've now been recognized in public, in essence, 4 times, but 3 times in one little trip, which I thought pretty cool. So Grumpy Australians checking in from Oz at 2:59. Remember, it's tomorrow there. So Johnny Knoxville says, I may have to start wearing a disguise. That's what this is. I'm growing in a disguise. It's just going to take a really long time. 55 said, I'll check in from Lawrence, Kansas. Again, I can't stay long as I have someone to meet later. I will always listen a bit on Sunday. I appreciate that. Gamer 34551 says, wow, someone actually gave you. You're that popular now. Writes Crispy, I saw your VinWiki video on how to get out of a speeding ticket and you're not a bootlicker. Well, it's funny. I have to mention that because I still get comments this day on the video I did about that, where people will comment and say, yeah, if you want to get out of a ticket and be a bootlicker, go right ahead. I tell the cop to shove it. Yeah, you tell the cop to shove it and you get a ticket. That's how that works. We always need the people to do it wrong to make those of us who do it right get better. Nathan Smith, I was up in Copper Harbor for the 4th of July weekend. I heard they had fireworks. It actually looked pretty good for such a small town. I love Copper Harbor. It's a neat little town at the edge of the planet, basically, in Lake Superior, a little peninsula, tip of the peninsula, Keweenaw Peninsula. And it's just this neat little town, all kinds of mountain biking trails and hiking trails, and you can kayak there, and you can do all kinds of outdoorsy stuff. And the town is so small that you just stay there and you can walk around, so you can walk from one end to the other in 5 minutes. It's pretty cool. So I just love that town. Johnny Knoxville, I am the real Steve Lehto. Thunder God 97 checking in from Benton Harbor on the west side or the left side of Michigan. There you go. Daniel Kester, is a Canadian robot lady here yet? I do not know. I will send her a quick note and find out where she's at. Although she might be busy. She has a life. Doing robot things. Happy Camper, when are you going on with Fry, Barnes, or Hunley? I've talked to Viva. I've not talked to the other people, but I will. It's just unfortunate. It's just trying to schedule this stuff. Busy schedules and whatnot. Brian Smith, first live show I've seen in months. Great to be here with often recognized Steve Lehto. It's like the world famous K-Rock, KROQ. The often recognized Steve Lehto. Nathan Smith, have you ever gone to the tip of the QAnon? Yes, I have. I did not go this trip. I was driving my new Explorer, and I wasn't sure how drivable that final little piece of the road is. I've driven out there in my old Explorer. I drove out there in a Jeep. I think I've ridden a mountain bike out there. But I did not do it on this trip. But there is a road out to the very, very tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula. It's very, very cool. It's a neat place to go. So, Starbucks Coffee checking in from the Boston area. Daniel Kester, are you well hydrated? I am, and I will be. I will remain so as best I can. Still waiting for Matthias to check in because I got something cool right here to talk about. Oh, Analog Designer Jay, hello from San Clemente, California. Thank you for checking in, my friend. ZKR99, what's up with the states that sell fireworks but not to residents and you can't legally use them? It's always interesting. There have been a bunch of weird loopholes on that. And in Michigan, for instance, for years, you were allowed to sell fireworks, but you weren't allowed to use them here. So the sellers would always tell you, wink, wink, you can't use these in Michigan and sell them to you. Johnny Knoxville, I need to canoe the Mississippi. I actually thought about that, not so seriously that I actually started making plans, but I thought about that because it'd be a fun thing to do if you had a couple months to kill. But the problem is that the upper Mississippi's got a lot of dams on it. And the question is, do you have to start below all those dams? Or are you going to actually ford them all? Or what are you going to do? And then, all you got to do is add one level of complication to something and suddenly I lose interest. Ramon Bracero, what is your connection to South Carolina? None whatsoever. I've got viewers there. And a lot of people ask me about the stuff they see on the set and, or stuff I'm wearing and say, like, oh my, are you a member of the Coast Guard? And no, I'm not. But someone who is a member of the Coast Guard sent me that plaque to put it on set to, be a cool thing to have on my set. And so a lot of the stuff behind me is donated, including a lot of the shirts I wear. In fact, I came back from my little trip and I went to the post office and I found my P.O. box, the largest P.O. box you can buy, stuffed with a note saying, I've got more for you. And the postmaster wasn't there, so I couldn't get all my stuff. So I got a bunch of new shirts. I just worked them into the rotation this morning. So we have some new shirts coming. And for those of you who are inclined, I wear a double XL, XXL. And I also picked up some more shirts when I was up north. So there you go. Tim M. Hi, I love your show. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The Fuse Man says you can whitewater on the Delaware River. Ton of fun. Yeah, I don't do whitewater in my canoe. Although I've had the canoe doing 11 miles an hour. on the Tequamanon River. But that's because I got a 5 horsepower Honda pushing it. Oh, Johnny Knoxville, Stephen Johnny's excellent canoe trip down Mississippi. Hey, if you're up for it, I always need someone to hold down the front end of the canoe. The problem is that me and a boat motor in the back cause the canoe to sit like this unless I've actually got someone in the front. So I need someone in the front of my canoe to hold it down. So Gary Weisenberger, how many mass murderers do you have as viewers? I wouldn't know. They generally don't announce themselves. Matwar, do you have a kayak? No, I do not. Just have the canoe, 17-foot Grumman aluminum canoe with a flat stern. Styles Wonder Emporium just built an electric canoe. Really? That's cool. How long will it run on a charge? That's what I want to know. Leslie Beckwith, hi from Maine. David Cudahy, hello from Niagara Falls, New York. Graham Mills, has the Woodward Dream Cruise been yet? No, it's coming up in August. It's coming up in August. Just Google it. You'll find it. They got a website. They got a Facebook page. They got all that stuff. I forgot the date, mid-August. It's listed as being a Saturday, but it really starts on Wednesday or Thursday and kind of fizzles out into Sunday. Joseph Volpe, great show, Steve. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. 90 says, get a dog to hold the canoe down. You know, Douglas Houghton had a dog to hold down the front end of his canoe, but the problem is that it's hard to get the dog to stay up there because the dog always wants to hang out with the person on the canoe. And I need a stationary object up there. So there we go. Matthew Guy, thanks for sharing the towing stories. Well, thank you for listening. Jerry Ormston, what about a tour of the set one day? The problem I have is I'm scared to move my camera. I'm scared to touch my camera. It took me so long to get even to get the image straight that now that I've got it, I'm scared to touch it. Whenever I've had a few people in the studio, I always say, don't touch anything. I'm serious. Walk around like you're in a museum and you're in the display. Don't touch anything, okay? Because everything is dialed in. It took me years to get here. Johnny Knoxville's shopping for kayaks. Starbucks Coffee is cruising the Great Loop this fall and have room for one more passenger if you're interested. I'm not sure what the Great Loop is. Let me know. Ed McDonald's checking in from Shreveport. Someone else checked in from Louisiana. Danny Bates has got to get ready for a date. Just wanted to check in. I'll watch the rest later. See ya. Check in next week and let us know how the date went. Oh, Kate L. Hello from St. Louis, the murder capital of the U.S. Is that true? If that's true, you know, Detroit used to be for the longest time. And in fact, Detroit was always the go-to punchline on Hawaii Five-0. They'd say, yeah, we got word in the street they sent in a hitman farming up their work to other people. Clown World resident, no super chats. You know, I hate to ask people to pay. I really do. I know some people who say no, but you got to do it because there are people who are willing to pay. There's somehow in my mind there's a line that gets crossed when I say, hey, by the way, you can now pay to ask a question. Thunder Wonders, I weigh 300 pounds. That should hold down the front end. Yeah, it would. I forgot what the motor weighs. I think the motor weighs like 65 pounds plus added to my weight. So, you know, probably like a teeter-totter to work out perfectly. Styles Wonder, do any of those microphones behind you have any cool stories tied to them? No, not really. They're just cool microphones. A lot of people comment on the Lollipop right there, the astatic Lollipop. That's a popular microphone apparently used by guys in the amateur radio set. But a bunch of them are just old. I like old microphones. That Shure is kind of cool. That's like a lot of rock and rollers used that back in the 50s. But they're not really broadcast microphones, but I just like them. I collect microphones. So, yeah, Mike Toff points out that if the dog in the front of the canoe saw something like ducks, you might have a problem with a dog exiting the canoe before you wanted it to. Mark's Mayali, how about recording a tour with a cell phone camera? But then how do I know there's ways to do it. I'm kind of I'm kind of primitive on my skills with respect to how to make these things work. The fact that they work at all still blows my mind. Daniel Kester says, use one of the cameras used when showing your Viper. Yeah, the problem is that this is live, and I'm not sure how to mix it in. And I understand I could probably do something, but I haven't taken that step yet. Fred Blowers, hello from Grandville, Michigan. Fred Corrado Jr. from Guilford, Connecticut. Jordan also, did you ever see my emails? I am not sure to what you refer. Was there a specific question, or did you send me a story? Wayne Fogel's hitting the road. Bye. Thanks for being your way while you were. Susan Johnson, is your book ready to publish? What are you, my editor? Just joking. I had a long conversation with my publisher and an editor on Friday a week ago, and went on my trip, and I got an email from my editor saying, got some more questions, 2 pages, single-spaced. Can you answer these questions for us? They'll say things like on page 89, where it says, I walked into the store with so-and-so. Is that the same? I got to go and pull the manuscript out and look some stuff up and try to figure this stuff out. And you know how it goes. So Canadian Robot Lady's just checked in on the Lehto's Law phone. So she will be here shortly enough. Yeah, Rand Thompson says if you have a dog in the front, passing a cat in the front of another canoe going the other way, you might have problems. The Huguenot, is the stream quality bad for anyone else? No, it's just you. No, we're kidding. We've had some issues today. I apologize for that. There's only so much I can do. I've actually got a very good connection in terms of what my baseline is, and I'm running cables pretty much everywhere. So the fact that something is out of whack is probably with YouTube, but I apologize. Daniel Kester has put the studio tour at the end of one of your edited videos. What I could actually do is bring my camera in on a stabilizer and walk through and then do a narration over it and put it up. I'm not sure. The sad part is those videos don't do that well. So we'll see. Daniel Jones is listening to Art Bell back in 1993. It's a while ago. Johnny Knoxville, Steve has an Art Bell shirt. Yes, I do. In fact, it's in what we call hot rotation, meaning that it's still among the ones that I've been going through lately. So it'll pop up in the next week or two. Fred Blower says this is the first time you didn't mention the Pontiac Granville. Well, that's cheating. I just did. Oh, boy. Although I don't know if the Pontiac Granville is named after the town of Granville, but when are you going to have blue check marks on your social media accounts? I don't really pay that much attention to that stuff. Because I'm on Facebook, but I don't know that, there are other people named Steve Lehto in the world. I'm not sure it really matters. Daniel Jones, WLS Chicago, one of those great radio stations with 3 call letters, just 3. Chris Totsky, the Turbine Engine, just shouting out to engines we like. Canadian Robot Lady, who's the new host? I don't recognize this fellow with the beard. The sad part is that this is this is barely a beard. I know guys who get this by noon when they shaved. Okay. So this right here, for those of you who are curious, is literally 1 week of not shaving. And it looks like a clear-cut forest that was cut yesterday. So Aztec 3 Marker says, I'm so OCD that I say CDO to be in alphabetical order. That's good. I like that. Jack Roth, KFI in LA has 3. Yeah, there's a bunch of them. WWJ and WJR in Detroit are another 2. It just means they're real old school. Mr. Phil, 1969. Steve, make his t-shirt collection like the top 40 in hot rotation. Johnny Knoxville, time for a Harry's Razor ad. Yeah, maybe I should get a sponsor and say I'm not going to shave till a sponsor pays me to take this off. The funny thing is, I mentioned before, I still get offers of sponsorship, but still it's stuff I would never, someone will contact me from China and go, look, we sell plastic packaging. Are you willing to put a 60-second commercial in the middle of one of your videos in exchange for, and they'll either offer you the product, like I could get plastic packaging, or they'll pay me to put something, and I've also had them say, if you will stop what you're talking about and then do an endorsement for 60 seconds and then continue your program. Can you imagine if I was talking about something like, here's all the reasons not to buy an RV, but meanwhile, you need to buy this widget? Let's talk about this widget for 60 seconds. I'm not scared I'd lose viewers. I'm scared that people would actually get angry. I mean, so I've had people actually send me an email and offer me money and say, Steve, here's how much we'll pay you for an ad. And I just don't respond. And then they go, did you not get the email? I write them back. Oh, yeah, I got the email. I'm not interested. And I go, why? Other people take it. And I'm like, I couldn't do that in good conscience. Plus, I don't really know what that would do. So Susan Johnson says, how is the poison ivy healing? Thank you for asking. I got poison ivy, and you can just see if you can see it. You can just barely see the spot right there. But I got poison ivy twice this year, and it's embarrassing. I know I'm allergic to it. And I was out working in the yard one day, and I wasn't paying attention, and I noticed my feet starting to itch. I'm like, oh, it's poison. Sure enough, it's poison ivy. So I go to the doctor. I get the medicine. It clears up. And about a week or two later, after it cleared up, I was out working in the yard again. Socks, shoes, long pants, long sleeve shirt, gloves, everything. And I was handling something, and I felt something on my arm, and my sleeve must have pulled up. And it got on my arm, and I accidentally went like this before I realized it. When I went inside, I had 2 spots perfectly right there and there. Had to go back to the doctor, more drugs, but I'm fine now. So thank you, Susan, for asking. Someone else asked me, have you played the Finnish game of baseball? And the answer, of course, there is no. And, I've seen them play that game. The Huguenot asked me, have you played the Finnish baseball yet, which is baseball? And what happened was, apparently, and I apologize to Finns in the audience, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but some guy from Finland came to America and watched baseball. And he thought, I don't really think that's the way that game should be played. I think there'd be a better way to play it. And so he invented this other weird, it's like something right out of Bizarro World, where the way you run is not this. It's very strange. It's very strange. And it's not caught on anywhere except for in Finland. But apparently it's a big deal in Finland. So John Doe, wait, I want to know more about the widget. Hey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call your office or your home, and I'm going to have a recorded message go, don't hang up. This is not a sales call. If you'd like to know more about the wonderful widget, press 1. If you'd like to have us take you off the do not call list, or put you on the do not call list, press 2. When you press 2, you're going to get the same thing you get with 1, which would be like, we have widgets for sale. Jack Roth, Frasier had episodes like that regarding the sponsors. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Frasier, the sitcom, was very, very good. I actually still watch it. It's on Cozy TV, I think. And it was set in a radio station, and some of it makes complete sense to somebody who worked in radio, and some of it does not. But some of it that makes sense, pretty interesting. And there are some episodes where, silly sponsors want Frasier to advertise and do personal endorsements. And Frasier, of course, is this, snooty Harvard-educated psychologist or psychiatrist. And somebody wants him to, advertise hot tubs. Yeah, Mr. Phil says Steve's looking for a padded envelope manufacturer sponsor. That would come in handy. I use a lot of padded envelopes. Steve, I was in my parents' garage and they had vodka boxes from Finland. Yeah, what happened to the vodka? Paul Van Santvoort, 123. Have you ever been to Holland, Michigan? Years ago. Everyone knows Holland for tulips, tulip mania. Jack O. Voltrades, I'd buy that for $1. That's a great line from RoboCop. RoboCop, I'd buy that for $1. Mark Hoover, I'm allergic to poison ivy. Go find some Technu. I had several other people mention it. I don't have any. I should try that. Eli Cartman, how is the flooding in Southeast Michigan going? Hope you're safe. Are things improving? Flooding apparently hit Detroit pretty badly, but not much that I heard of outside the Detroit area, except for severe weather. I heard about some people who had like trees down and so on, but I think everyone's pretty much safe. Starbucks Coffee says the Great Loop is a 6,000-mile continuous waterway trip from New York City up the Hudson, Erie Canal, across the Great Lakes, down the Mississippi, the Gulf of Mexico, through Florida, and back up to New York. Yeah. That's a great loop, my friend. Yeah, actually, I've heard of that now that you mention it. And it's pretty much going around, like, you know, the eastern United States. That'd be quite a trip. FDSS says you could do the endorsement if you told them you're going to test the products. And if they accept that, then he beats on it some way until it breaks, and then he gives his opinion. I'm surprised. I bet there are websites that do that. But yeah. Greg Preston, hi Steve, longtime subscriber from Luton in Bedfordshire, UK. Thank you for checking in, my friend. I appreciate that. Gungeon Rubber, hi from Beaverton, Michigan. I love hearing from small towns in Michigan. Volvo 09, when I was a kid, my brother got poison ivy all over him. He was all swollen. It was brutal. Face, legs, everywhere. Yeah, and the weird thing is not everyone's as allergic to poison ivy. But if you're allergic, it happens. And, you know, I'm not even aware of ever getting poison ivy as a child. I don't know if it developed later in life or if I just didn't have poison ivy around me. But sometime in the 1990s, I got it once. And, you know, you get a rash on you that won't go away. You finally go to a doctor, they go, yeah, it's poison ivy, take these pills, boom, it goes away. Oh, that was easy. The problem is that each time you get it in a season, it gets worse and harder to make it go away. So it's one of those things. MTG Gizmo Thing. Won't believe how many friends I have to tell to not argue with the police roadside. Just take the ticket and make your case in court. Follow instructions. Be polite. You're not going to win at the roadside. That is absolutely true. And of course, the goal is to see if you can avoid getting the ticket by being nice and cooperative. And many times the police pull you over, have not decided to write you the ticket yet. You might get out of it. But arguing at the roadside ain't going to help you any. It ain't going to help. Now, that's the only time today I'm going to say ain't. Jerry, see any metal detecting finds lately? Nothing spectacular. I've gone out a few times, found just nothing but pocket change. But, you know, when it's really, really hot out, especially if it's been too dry, it's not fun to dig because it can be so hard to dig into the ground. So, Bob Summers, is Devil's Night still a thing? In Detroit, it used to be, but not so much lately. There was a time in the late 80s, early 90s, when they would send film crews from other countries to Detroit just to film the mayhem on Devil's Night, the night before Halloween. And people would go out and burn down abandoned homes. It was like the pastime. And they finally got neighborhood watch groups together. And they go out and patrol at night. And they've got it really, really down to the point where it's no longer a thing. Mark Hoover, I know what they give me. They look at you strange when you walk in and say, I've gotten poison ivy, need some prednisone. Okay. I may have missed the first half of that conversation, but I can tell you that that's what you get. And if you've had poison ivy, you learn very quickly. You know it when you got it. It's one of those things. So, Johnny Knoxville, I talked my way out of my last pullover with honesty. Hey, there's a theory. Depends what the cop asks you. I'm always embarrassed. I could, I've had some great interactions with cops at the roadside. I've gotten out of a few tickets. I've had another few that didn't go so well. But I can tell you that I ran a red light once in front of a cop. Just bad. And I was driving through Flint. Years ago. And I came to one of those lights where there's a left turn arrow, and I thought the left turn arrow was about to turn green. And so I went through it. Right there, and the light, the green arrow went first, not last at the intersection. And there's a cop right there. I couldn't have put a cop in a worse place. And I blow this red light, and I see the cop, and I'm like, oh. And sure enough, as soon as he pulls out, I pulled on a side street, shut the car off, broad daylight. He walks up, he goes, "You know what you did, right?" And I go, "Yes." He goes, "Don't do it again." He walked away. And then I realized it was 5:00. I think it was the end of his shift. But I got out of it. So there you go. Tigerman 99515. Did you ever tip your canoe? Once. Very unpleasant experience. I just within 2 or 3 trips of getting it all set up, I put it on a river, and St. Joseph River, southwestern Michigan. And I'd been in that river before, and I thought I knew where all the sandbars were. And I was still adjusting the bolt or the screw that tweaks how tight the axis is that when you turn the canoe handle, the tiller. I'd set it too loose, and I was going around a curve in the water, and I hit a sandbar, and I went to turn it, and the thing was so loose, the motor just flopped, and it flopped the same way that the canoe was turning and just flipped right over. And it was in literally like waist deep water. It was no big deal. So all I had to do was, number one, shut the motor off so it doesn't ingest any water. And then drag it over to a sandbar, the same one I hit, ironically, and take the motor off, lay it down, flip the canoe over, get the water out, put the canoe right back up. But I couldn't get the motor restarted. So I had to put the motor in the canoe and paddle back to the launch site. But it was more embarrassing than anything else. David Stewart, tip a canoe, and Steve Lehto, too. Daniel Jones, why don't you have a Knight Rider kit car on your display? No one has sent me in one, and I don't have one. If I had one, I'm sure I would display it. Johnny Knoxville is counting down his last 28 seconds of cardio. I think we're all with you, my friend. Don't give up now. Push it. Push the envelope. Co-taxista flipped a raft on the Yampa River in Colorado once. Unflipping a raft shouldn't be that difficult, though, once you get to calm water, right? Oh, Apocalypse Cow. Poison sumac. I've never dealt with poison sumac. I've dealt with poison oak, which my understanding is pretty much the same as poison ivy with respect to how you deal with it. So, MVS checking in from Northwest Colorado. Trevor Miller got pulled over by a state trooper doing 15 over and thought the speed limit was 65. Honestly thought I wasn't speeding and got a written warning. That's nice. That's nice for a cop to do that. And, it depends what their marching orders are. If they're trying to make money off tickets or if they're actually out there doing their jobs. So, Volvo 09 points out that many people who try to answer nature's call while they're in boats often tip them. And I've heard of that too. I've never fallen out of a boat that way myself. But Tigerman 99515. underwater snags in a canoe are dangerous, especially because of the fact that I'm running a boat motor. So the canoe sits about that deep in the water in the back, but then there's a shaft sticking down with a motor, with a prop on it, being pushed by a motor. And so that can hit stuff. Now, if it hits something, the motor does tip. So it's not going to clunk and snap off the bottom half or something. But Irving Briscoe checking in from Canada. Thank you, my friends. C. Warren, I flipped the canoe and bloodied my nose. On what? On the canoe or something out of the canoe? The Fuse Man, are you following all the new information about the sinking of the Thresher submarine? I've seen headlines. I've not actually read about it. I will look at that one of these days. I've read a bunch of books about the American submarine service as well as the German U-boats and so on. So I'm fascinated by it. Just haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Daniel Jones, years back, had a car that the speedo was way off. Yeah, I've had people tell me that, especially, like, for instance, if you put different size tires on your car, that can affect the speedometer. How much? I don't know. So, SR, how hot is it over in Michigan? It's been in the low 90s here in Washington. I've got 81 degrees F right now. 81 F. I just got a text from Verizon. The fact that they know my number doesn't mean they should be texting me. Marks Mayali, do you have a favorite farm market? I don't do a lot of the farmers markets. I know people who do. The Royal Oaks farmers market is supposed to be very, very good. But I'm not one who goes and, hey, I hear the squash is good this week. Robert Wilson, you don't want poison sumac. It makes poison ivy seem like water. I got into it once. It was miserable for over a week. Wow. Well, I know staghorn sumac grows wild in Michigan. We've got it everywhere. I ran 5.5 miles this morning, by the way. And I ran down a road that has a big whole wall of staghorn sumac. And it's kind of cool. That's the stuff that's got the big red flowers. I don't know if it's flowers, but these mossy appendages. I'm sure they are flowers. They don't look like flowers. But they call it staghorn sumac. It's pretty cool stuff. And it grows insanely. The amount it grows is amazing. But it's perfectly, fine. But I'm not sure about poison sumac. I'm not sure what it looks like differently. But it could be. I can imagine it's bad. I'm Cheesecake. Loves the content. Steve. And I had cheesecake just the other night in Eagle Harbor, Michigan. Not far from Copper Harbor, Michigan. Kate L., I flipped the canoe on my dad accidentally when getting out at the dock. He never lets me forget it. Yeah, getting into and out of the canoe is an art form. And it's all you got to remember is how tippy the canoe is. And you're so used to standing on things that are stable that most people make the mistake of stepping into a canoe from the side and putting their foot near them. And of course, you put it near you and it tips the canoe. So all you got to do is put your foot over the other side. So if anything, it's going to tip the other way, but it won't. And so all you do is you put your foot on the other side, and as it starts to lean over, you then grab the near side and climb in. Or you can get in at one end and walk down the middle, which is actually pretty easy to do also. So a lot of times when you're launching a canoe, especially in a river, you have the canoe out in the water, the bow is on the shore, and the stern might be in 3 feet of water, or on a lake even, And so you can step onto the canoe at the shallow end and walk the back end 17 feet later over deep water, but just stay in the middle of the canoe. So Rand Thompson says the new Thresher info is disturbing but plausible. I also recently saw a documentary, I think, on the raising of the Kursk, which was the Russian submarine that sank tragically not so long ago. And they actually raised it and brought it back to examine it. Again, amazing technology that went into doing that. So, Bob Summers, which game shows do you enjoy, past or present? I always liked Jeopardy, but I haven't watched game shows in a long time. Peter Mandis, are you going to watch the Olympics? Probably, but the biggest problem with the Olympics is they always try to second guess what you want to watch, and then they overload it on the stupid stuff. And you know something? They act like gymnastics is the be-all and end-all of sports. Gymnastics and swimming, especially if we've got somebody who's winning medals. And I am a patriot and a supporter of the American Olympic team as much as anybody else. But if I tune in and catch Bob Costas for 4 hours talking about nothing but gymnastics and swimming, it's like, guys, the Olympics, there's like there's hundreds of sports going on here. And they act as if, well, if no American's going to medal, who wants to watch it? And there are some sports I could watch. I don't care. I'll watch the marathon. The Olympic marathon to me is one of the greatest events in sports. I love watching the Olympic marathon. And there have been some fabulous ones. And track and field to me is very interesting. I love watching that. And so my concern is how badly they butcher it for network television. But, you know, I'll watch it. But the good news is a lot of it will be on YouTube. So I know that a lot of the Olympic trials, for instance, were on YouTube. And so I can go there right now and watch the trials. They may have happened a couple days ago, but you can watch the trials and see, you know, what happened without, you know, the talking heads at NBC or whoever's got the rights to it this year, you know, saying, well, in a little while, we're going to go back to the swimming complex where, you know, the American team might win the, 400 meter mixed intermediate medley or something. And it's like, you know, there's a clue you should figure out. If no one's watching swimming for 3.5 years, don't spend so much time on it during the Olympics. So there you go. 90 knots, figure skating is the worst for me. Well, for the Winter Olympics. Yeah. So, Apocalypse Cow. Olympic Games television coverage has gone downhill since the 70s. Remember when they started doing all the it was the Nadia Comaneci and drawing a mental blank on the other woman before her, where they started doing the up close and personal stuff. And the tricky part is that if somebody is doing really well in the Olympics, you need to have shot that package beforehand to run it. And occasionally, Olga Corbett, occasionally they get it wrong. And so they'll turn somebody into a star who may not be the best person there or vice versa. And it's always funny because you can tell they try to figure this stuff out and occasionally get it wrong. Daniel Jones, the Kursk got raised while I was in the second grade. I found the ship was covered by CIA and Howard Hughes to mine manganese nodules from the ocean. I think you're confusing that with the other story about the Red Star Rogue. The Kursk sank up in the north. And I think the one you're talking about with the CIA and Howard Hughes. I read a book on that. I forgot the lettering. Somebody will correct that in a second. Tim Denhart, handball is a good watch. Team handball or individual handball? Team handball is one of those games that was like almost like invented by like a couple professors who just said, "Hey, let's just invent a game," and came up with team handball. The Glomar Explorer. There you go. There you go. Where it jumped on me. Yeah, Daniel Jones. The Glomar Explorer was the ship that was built, and the cover was it was picking up mineral nodules off the bottom of the ocean. But in reality, it was there to pick up a sunken Russian submarine that I believe contained nuclear warheads. And we wanted to get our hands on some of their technology, and we did. And they didn't figure it out for the longest time. Tigerman99515, wife and I had an interesting encounter with a brown bear while fishing from a small boat in an even smaller creek. Yeah, my understanding is most brown bears will keep away from humans for the most part, right? Blah, blah, blah. My favorite is the broad jump. Yeah, I like a lot of the track and field stuff. And by the way, getting back to my old previous adage where I said if people don't watch it during the off years, and why do you show it during the Olympics? I do watch track and field. When I'm flipping around the channels, if I see track and field, I'll watch it for a little while. I don't know most of the competitors anymore, but I'll watch a good 5K race. I'll watch a good 10K race. To me, it's fun to watch, so. Sir Dialot. In this day and age, they should know exactly how much interest there is just by how many are watching which stream. That will probably be the case, if not now, but very soon. So you'll be able to see who's watching it and so on. Larry Abney, what makes some law schools better than others? It depends on how you look at it, because in reality, most people will tell you that the only thing that really matters is the first job you get out of law school. And so if you get a good job out of law school, you probably won't need to use, the reference where you went much more beyond that. Hang on, I'm resetting some stuff on my thing here. But there are, accredited law schools, which most state bars require you to have graduated from. But there are obviously top tier schools where they're more competitive to get into. And Tim Denhard, you get to see the Olympic dancing horses in the USA. It's not good. You mean dressage? Don't get me wrong. I love horses. I have nothing against the people who like horses. But some of that stuff, to me, it's fun to watch. But the question is, anytime you have a sport where the winners are judged and it's pure judging, okay, then you have issues. So figure skating, for instance, don't get me wrong. I will tell you that figure skaters are unquestionably extremely talented athletes. What they do is so difficult. There's no question it's athletes, it's athletics. But when it's purely graded, then you've got problems. And there were situations where they found out that there were judges trading scores back and forth and fixing things, and that's what happens. And so the interesting thing is there are some sports that are so simple. And so, for instance, boxing, right? You put two guys in a ring, you ring a bell, they punch each other, and somebody falls down. Everyone knows who won the fight. Now, I understand nowadays you have fights that go the distance and they get judged. But I'm talking about the purest form of boxing. In the old days, they simply went until somebody fell down. Okay? That's simple. Or a race, right? A bunch of runners start here. They run here. The first person to cross this line wins. That is quite simple. And so I have a little bit of a problem with the sports that require too much judging versus stuff that the viewers can see. And there have been times where I've been watching figure skating and I thought to myself, that was a good routine. That was not. And the judges like that one, but not that one. And if the judges are seeing stuff that the audience is not seeing, then you've also got a problem. But another story altogether. Edward Brady curling. Sean Huntley, underwater golf. Redbeard the pilot, Crimson Tide trifecta in play. Steve's brought up submarines and dressage in the same conversation. Leslie Beckwith, my niece Amanda Rossiter teaches dressage in Europe. Very cool. Apocalypse Cow says you're biased against judges. That could have been an unconscious bias that I was unaware of till just now. I'll have to think about that. Maybe I should get some kind of therapy for that. Gary Manass, afternoon, folks, from Central North Carolina. Howdy, Mr. Lehto. Howdy to you too, my friend. Redbeard, the pilots of speed walking is a legit thing. Yeah, speed walking is weird. Don't get me wrong. I know it's been around forever. And many of the races I run marathons. I've got ribbons over there from marathons. In every marathon I run, there are walkers out there, speed walkers. And it's a thing. And there's a point about how you walk and how your feet hit the ground and where you're walking versus running. But to me, it's like, something, it's kind of like swimming. I know people who love swimming are going to get offended by this, but I personally think swimming should just be swimming. I don't think there should be a freestyle, a backstroke, breaststroke, side stroke, frog stroke, octopus stroke. The idea that they're going to sit there and judge. I don't know if he's doing this. He's not doing the stroke properly, or just do it like you do foot racing. Starting line, finish line, swim. First person there wins. Oh, no. They've got to use a certain stroke and then this other stroke. And that's almost as if they had a 100-yard dash, and then they had a 100-yard hop. Then they had the 100-yard hop-a-doodle. Then they had the 100-yard hop, skip, and a jump. I mean, they don't do that, So I'm not sure how swimming, and maybe somebody knows, but how swimming went down that road where it became like, oh no, different strokes. And so that's how you can have somebody win, 9 gold medals in one Olympics. And you discover it's like, oh, but all these different strokes get different events, and different events get different medals. So I don't know. Personal thing. The Fuse Man judging an underwater pumpkin carving contest must have been interesting. By the way, you need to go back and look at the Olympics in the early 1900s, and you'll find out they had some very strange events. Very strange events. I'm not sure about that, but Verukusaki86 points out that Billy Squire had the song The Stroke. Yes, he did. I had that album. Spinnick, I'm a Hoppadoodle champion, undefeated. But the question is, did the judges disqualify you for breaking stride in the 100 Hoppadoodle? Harvey Wiseman, you spoke about your friend's totaled Mustang. Is the insurance value based on the car and its specs, or is it also based on the non-transferable warranty and services associated with the totaled car? These are all good arguments. And the reason I say that is if you read your policy, it's simply going to say replacement value. And it's going to define that someplace as to what a comparable car can be replaced with in that market. So the question then becomes, what's a comparable car? And you can make the argument that those things go into making a car comparable, but they might say, it's hard to monetize that stuff. In my friend's case, the car had very, very low mileage. So, Canadian Robot Lady says that they had an underwater pumpkin carving event at a radio remote she did in Nanaimo around 2010, I'm guessing. Wow. 2010, yeah, that's interesting. Johnny Knoxville, I don't know how to keep the geese from doing their business on the sidewalk. Yeah, keep them off the sidewalk. Kinston and Duck, have you heard of the 1904 Olympic Marathon? It's a wild story that just goes on and on. There were some pretty wild marathons in the early years. The one in St. Louis, I believe, was the one where they had people like dropping over, and it's unclear if how many of them actually finished, and it was a mess. So, G Keyman 565, hello, Steve and others. Thank you for checking in, my friend. Of course, you're in Michigan, as I recall. Jerry Ormston, I once heard speed walking described as like a competition to see who could whisper the loudest. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, Diana Goodrich says Seattle mansion owners with lakefront property hire a dog service to keep geese off their lawns. Yeah, get yourself a couple of Australian shepherds and tell them that they can eat anything they catch. Watch them go to town. Lee Harvey, the day sports died is when they canceled the wide world of sports. the wide world of sports, people forget how important that was. When you lived in a market that had 2 stations or 3 stations or even 4 stations, okay? Let's say you lived in a market with 3 television stations back in the day, long before cable. And you had a choice. You sit down in the afternoon and you turn the TV on. There's 3 choices. And one of them on Saturdays is the wide world of sports. And they would cover anything and everything. And that was the beauty of it, because you didn't know what they were going to cover, but they covered everything as if it was the same importance. So they would cover a stock car race. They would cover Evel Knievel jumping buses. They would cover a skeet shooting contest. And whatever they covered, they would come in and they would give it the full wide world of sports treatment. And it was really cool. And the point of that was, I think, at least to me, is that they would show me something I'd never seen before, I'd never thought of before, and I'd watch it and go, wow, that was cool. That was really cool. So I really, really appreciated the wide world of sports. And yeah, I mean, there's stuff out there similar to it now. You got ESPN doing sports around the clock, but it was the production values and the work they put into making the show as high quality as it was, regardless of what they were covering. So geese are a real problem at small airports. Tigerman 99515. Yeah, ask Captain Sully about that. Yeah, of course. Geese are a problem for airplanes to such an extent that bird strikes are a common thing that they talk about. So you got to avoid them if you can and keep them away. I've seen airports that have hired dogs and dog services to come in and chase the geese away. Johnny Knoxville, the agony of defeat. They replaced all of the imagery in their opening montage, the thrill of victory, but not the agony of you couldn't top that. That was the guy coming down the ski launch, about the ski jump, and he loses it. He starts tumbling, and he survived. And many people assume that there's no way you walk away from that. Well, I don't know if he walked away from it, but at least he lived. I read interviews later, and he's like, yeah, I'm the agony of defeat guy. He was from Europe. I forgot what country he was from. And his only claim to fame was he crashed so badly that he became symbolic of the agony of defeat to a whole generation of TV viewers. Mark, hello, Steve. What's your opinion on countries banning combustion vehicles? I have very, very mixed feelings about that. I generally like to see the marketplace decide things, but it's hard to say. I think electric cars are coming. I think there will be a time when the vast majority of cars on the road will be electric, but it's going to come at a time somewhere down the road where they've solved the battery issues and a few other things, the charging issues. To me, the battery issue is how far will it go on a charge. The charging issue is, can the infrastructure support all these cars charging at the same time? And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because for every single one of these countries that does, like, Norway, there's other countries not doing it. But we can see a couple stations, a couple countries. We can see a couple countries who are going to do it, and we can watch what happens there as an experiment. But the problem with America also is that, we're used to the idea that I jump in my car and I drive to Atlanta and I drive back. And I can do that on a couple tanks of gas, and gas stations are, on and off 5-10 minutes. And so it's going to change a lot of that dynamics. I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen. So I'm just going to kind of wait and see on it. Kotax used to be at 2 stations after morning cartoons was the wide world of sports. Oh, the agony of defeat. Oh, Aquarius. Steve Lehto is the best. The one thumbs down is a fool. I got a thumbs down? People don't realize if you give me a thumbs down, as long as I'm on the high side and the thumbs ups, doesn't matter. The thumbs down is also engagement. So I'll take it. Ed McDonald, Kurt Gowdy. MTG Gizmo thing. I am Canadian. I don't live in an igloo or eat whale blubber, but I wish I could harvest these bloody geese. No one likes them. I think we all consider them a pest. The amazing thing about geese is they are so prolific. They are prolific, meaning that you can have 2 geese. Next thing you know, you've got a ton of geese. And many of them survive to adulthood. And then, of course, they pair off, figuratively speaking, and you have this exponential growth. And geese can apparently survive nature much more so than other animals. And there are quite a few geese, and there are more and more of them all the time. So it would be interesting if there's something you could do with them other than simply shoo them away. But Mark Heil, I wonder if the new beard will mess with the acoustics of the studio. It's an interesting question because obviously the sound comes out of my face this way and reflects back from a couple flat surfaces. But I don't know if anything back here behind the sound source makes a difference. But if anything, it would have some sound deadening qualities. Johnny Knoxville, Jim McKay lived to 2008. Jim McKay's another one of those guys. You just remember him covering anything. William T. reminds us they're Canada geese, not Canadian geese. Not Canadian geese, they're Canada geese. Dr. J, which is worse, geese or pigeons? The problem with pigeons is that pigeons will perch on things and do their business up there. Geese tend to hang out near the ground or they fly. So I think in the city, pigeons are a problem. It's more a place where there's lawns and stuff for the geese to hang out. So, Wise Guy, have you tried the new mountain bike trails at Stony Creek Metro Park? No, I was not aware of them. I'll check them out. Fred Blowers points out that you have female sports that allow women that are men to compete against real women. Oh, yeah, there's a whole different topic there. Starbucks Coffee, isn't wife carrying a sport in Finland? Yeah, Finland invents a lot of these interesting things. Wife carrying is one of them. Cell phone throwing is another one. Videos by Alice checking from Norway, Iowa. I think we've got a Norway, Michigan, too. I think we mention that from time to time. Scott Ferguson says, pigeons, you mean sky rats. Rats of the sky. Sounds better when you put it on the menu. Carp of the air. Wild Bill 57 looks like you're trying to pull off the Don Johnson look from Miami Vice. You know, Miami Vice, people forget how cutting edge that TV show was when it first came out. I think it was on Friday nights when they played it originally in primetime. And it was one of those shows that had such big ratings, like people would actually, like, what are you doing Friday night? I'm watching Miami Vice before, VCRs and so on. So. Wild Bill 57, wife carrying, does it have to be your wife? I believe so. And that of course, does introduce a whole new dynamic. The Huguenot, have you ever had yourself some possum? No, I have not. I've seen possums in the wild. I've seen some possums that had passed on. At least I thought they had. And Wolfie, the one of the 2 dogs I mentioned at the end of the videos. Wolfie, there was a possum that he had a dispute with, and I say this because the possum actually played dead, and I'd never seen a possum do that. And I always heard that. I've seen the cartoons, right? And one day, Wolfie's on the back deck barking like a maniac. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's got to be the cat or a skunk, but I got to go out in case it's a skunk. And I go out there, and there's a possum laying there. And now Wolfie's barking at it through the side of the deck. Now, he could have gone around and barked at it on the ground, but he's busy. He had other things to do. So I put Wolfie inside the house, and I walk over there, and the possum is laying there. I'm thinking to myself, is this possum dead, or is he playing possum? So I go over there, and I push him with my shoe, and I see his eye go like that at me. And I'm like, dude, come on. And I nudge him with my foot again, and he gets up, and he starts waddling over, and he waddles out of the yard. But think about that as a defense mechanism. He's walking through the yard, a dog barks at him, he lays down dead. Hoping That's what's coming after him won't bite him, So Sting cool. Possums look ferocious, but are definitely not. Yeah, they actually look like big rats, So yeah, Gary Maness says they have a badass set of teeth. Yeah, they got little needle teeth. I wouldn't want a possum to bite me. And Morgan McIntyre, yeah, the dog could go out and clomp. I mean, can you imagine like a vicious dog of some sort coming out and the possum's laying down? It's like making it easy on me. Clomp, Giroldo Ju, I could be mispronouncing it. I'm sure I am. Add bog snorkeling and mud wrestling to Finland's exotic global offerings. Well, they've got mud wrestling in America. A lot of bars offered on Friday nights, but bog snorkeling, okay. And Finland's annual sauna contest. Now that's interesting. I've heard of that before, but I've also heard people getting injured during the sauna contest because there are people who will actually say, "I'm not going to lose by stepping out," and instead they stay in there until they cook. So I've heard of people getting injured in that before. Roy Ferntorp says raccoons and otters are fun. Also, angry beavers. I like raccoons. I've raised raccoons before. It's a long story. Otters are neat. Copper Harbor has otters in its harbor, which is pretty cool. Justice Just Us as raccoons can kill a dog. I've heard that before. And there's a couple issues with raccoons. They're very, very smart. They have, it's not really a true thumb, biologists will tell you, but they have the equivalent almost of a thumb. They can grab things and they can bite if they have to. And so they can also climb trees. And I've also heard of, for instance, a dog chasing a raccoon into the water. And raccoons can swim. Now, dogs can swim, but the problem is once you're in the water, a dog uses its paws to swim and needs to use its mouth to breathe. And a raccoon can turn around and grab the dog with its paws, its hands. So, Apocalypse Cow. I used to have an otter box on my phone. William T. Wolverines are dangerous animals. Yeah, wolverines are. Now, wolverines haven't been wild in Michigan naturally for many, many years. Not too long ago, somebody spotted what could have been a wolverine up in the thumb. They're not sure if it was an escaped pet or if it was an actual wild wolverine. Wolverines used to be native to the Michigan Territory, but the Michigan Territory included what is now Wisconsin and Minnesota. So wolverines are known, though, pound for pound, of being extremely vicious animals. You don't want to mess with one. So, Mr. Phil, 1969, served with a big glass of Lehto's lemonade and a side of Lehto's slaw. A couple days ago, I wore on camera a Lehto's Pasties t-shirt. And I stopped at Lehto's Pasties on US 2. And there's a pasty shop in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that says Lehto's out in front. And I get asked about once a week if I'm related to those Lehto's. And I'm not. I've spoken to them. I'm not related to them. So I stopped in on Friday to get a pasty. And I introduced myself to the owner. And it was a different guy than I saw last time. And so my name is Steve Lehto. And he goes, "Oh, hey, cool. Glad you stopped by." I said, "I've got a YouTube channel. I'd really like one of those T-shirts if you got one in a double X." And he did. And I got a T-shirt. And I gave him my card and jokingly told him no relation. And we had a nice little talk. And I come home from my trip. I wear the shirt on camera. And then I go to my P.O. box. And in my box is a package. One of the packages contains a T-shirt from Lehto's Pasties that a viewer was driving by, stopped and got a pasty, and said, "Hey, I think Steve Lehto needs a T-shirt." So the good news is it's a different color than the one I bought. So in the next day or two, I'll be wearing another Lehto's Pasty T-shirt for the store in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that sells pasties. They're very good pasties. Pasties are like meat pies. They've got ground beef, potatoes, carrots, rutabaga, and some spices mixed in, all wrapped in a pastry that's cooked, and then you eat it like you can eat it on a plate with a fork and a knife, or you can eat it like a sandwich. So they're very, very cool. They were actually brought to Michigan by Cornish miners in the late 1800s. But many people think that they are Finnish because so many Finns eat Lehto's pasties. And I jokingly asked the guy behind the counter, I go, do you guys carry slaw? And he goes, yes, but we don't have any right now. So I could have bought some Lehto's slaw, but they didn't have any. So Apocalypse Cow says badgers and wolverines would be a fight to watch. Yeah, especially a honey badger, because honey badger don't care. Garrett Shook. Morning, gents. Morning, ladies. Morning, Garrett. Doug Dirty Imp, was that you on Woodward this morning in your Viper? No, I was not out this morning with my Viper. I will be out there shortly, but just not this morning. So occasionally I go down to the Cars and Coffee on Saturday at the Auto Zone by 14 Mile in Woodward. I love that place. John Ellis, Lehto's Repairs t-shirt. If you know of a business with Lehto's in the name, let me know. Eric Meyer, what is a pasty? I just explained it. I hope you caught that. Kotak C said there's a lawyer dog and a lawyer cat on Twitter. I wouldn't doubt that. Uber Blue Dragon, Steve, I make really good mashed carrots and rutabaga. You know, rutabaga is one of those things. I know what it is. I know what it tastes like, and I'm pretty certain the only time I eat them is when they're in pasties. But there are other foods that are like that. They only show up when you have that one particular thing that has them in there. Brianna CC, I like the young hyper you on talk radio. I play people tapes of what I sounded like as a disc jockey playing the hits back in the day. And you think I talk fast in videos, you need to hear me on the radio. Woo! A million miles an hour. Johnny Knoxville, have you heard about the zebra cobra that got loose from its owner in Raleigh? It can poison you by spitting the venom on you. Isn't that true of some? I think there's other cobras also that do that. Spitting cobras. And you wouldn't want that to get on you. So, Mike Ryan, you're welcome. Enjoy the shirt. Mike, are you the one who sent it? The name rings a bell. Thank you very much. It'll be on camera shortly. Marty, the Finns improved the pasty over the Cornish pasty. I'm not sure what the difference is, if there's actually a difference between the two. I mean, I know nowadays you can actually get yourself a vegan pasty and a chicken pasty, and they make a bunch of different kinds of pasties. I'm old school. I just get the old school pasty. Although, there's a debate. Do you put ketchup on it or do you put gravy on it? My prefer is butter. I prefer to put butter on them. Melted butter on a pasty. But Lehto's doesn't have butter. So, sad. Very sad. Kinston and Duck, have you seen big companies requiring personality tests before job interviews? Some disqualify applicants with incompatible personality types. I've heard of that, not necessarily recently, but in the past, I know that there are some jobs that you go to and they give you a battery of tests. And some tests might actually be to find out what kind of personality you are. I'm not sure what they do with that. So, Harvey Wiseman, you spoke about the right to repair on Louis Rossman's channel. How does the Magnus Moss Warranty Act affect right to repair after the warranty period? Well, right to repair is the idea that you should be allowed to work on your own stuff. And the Magnus Moss Warranty Act does a bunch of different things. And one of them is it describes what a warranty is and what your rights are under the warranty. Legally, what you can do if the warranty gets breached. But the Magnus Moss Warranty Act also says that a company cannot require you to use its parts and so on. And they can't punish you for not doing so by negating your warranty. But I guess the question you're asking is, so let's suppose you bought something and it's out of warranty. How does Mag Moss help you? Well, the way it's going to help you is that Mag Moss says that the manufacturer cannot tie those parts to the warranty. And so hopefully the marketplace will then say, okay, we can make aftermarket parts for that product because people can use them. So I'm not sure it makes that big of a difference outside of warranty, but I think it simply will by making parts available. I have to think about that a little bit more. Roy Ferntorp's Australian pasty is a mystery bag. Doug Dirty Imp, always gravy with pasties, never tried butter. Like, see how it works. Yeah, and Rex Turbo says ketchup. I put ketchup on mine because they didn't have butter, and I'll do ketchup instead of gravy. But quite frankly, gravy works too. So Hauptmann 6 though says ketchup is heretical. James Chamelik, would you say being a DJ gave you training on how to be a lawyer? Believe it or not, in a tiny little way, because being a lawyer, you do need to be able to speak in court in particular, and also think on your feet. And a lot of disc jockeys of what DJs do is they speak between songs for a very brief moment of time, so they have to do it properly and quickly. And it makes you be very, very efficient with what you're saying. And stuff can happen while you're on the air, so you can be able to think fast and not get frazzled. So, I mean, I know people who couldn't be a DJ if their lives depended on it because they would get too freaked out and would, screw up on the air. So it helped. I wouldn't say that it was like a secret weapon or, gave me superpowers or anything, but it certainly did. Speaking well is something that will help you as an attorney. I know people who took classes on acting, and they said that taught them how to be a good lawyer. And not that you're acting as a lawyer, but you are, presenting yourself in front of people. And actors are very conscious of that. And so they learned, number one, speaking and projecting, but also being aware of what they looked like and how, we've all met those people who are talking and don't seem to understand that people are watching you. And so, I've seen somebody standing in front of a court, in front of a jury, scratching their rear end. I'm not kidding you. I've actually seen an attorney during a closing argument scratching his butt. Does he not know? There's a jury. There's 8 people there, a civil case, 2 alternates. Maybe not all of them caught it. Some of them did. Will they hold it against him? Hard to say. But it's hard to take the guy seriously after that, isn't it? So, Rand Thompson, so mime lawyers are out? Depends on how good you are. No, actually, I'm gonna ruin your question by pointing out the obvious. And that technically speaking, everything that happens in the court has got to be recordable by audio court reporters, meaning that a court reporter's got to be able to write down what you say. And so technically speaking, you could not mime as a lawyer because it wouldn't appear on the record. And I will tell you that, and this to me is interesting. It might not be to any of you, but I apologize. Very dear friend of mine who's an attorney, he passed away. His name is Bruce Lightman. Blah, blah, blah. But, Your Honor, I object. It's good. My good friend Bruce Lightman, brilliant attorney, one of the people I idolized when I first became a lawyer, had a trial in front of Judge Taranis in Wayne County Circuit Court, and Judge Taranis was blind. He's a blind judge. Brilliant judge, great judge, but he's blind. Went to law school, graduated, became a lawyer, became a judge, one of the best judges in Wayne County. Unquestionably, no one doubts that. And Bruce Lightman was trying a case. He was defending a criminal case in front of Judge Taranis. And the prosecutor demonstrated with a police officer how a pat-down was conducted. And Bruce objected. And the prosecutor goes, "What's the objection?" And Bruce goes, "Number one, the court reporter can't record you patting someone down. And number two, unfortunately, with all due respect, the judge can't see what you're doing. So we need to actually go through this process in a way that you and I both agree. So the judge can hear what you're doing and the court reporter can write it down." And the judge goes, "Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you." And so the prosecutor had to actually say, I am now taking my hands, right hand, left hand, and I'm patting you on the sides of your shoulders while your hands are at your waist, correct? Yes. And they went through it that way. But the funny thing is that you can imagine what a mess that would have been if the witness had simply just said, yeah, this is how the pat down went. Okay, no further questions. What did the jury see? So Johnny Knoxville, Wayne County. Oh boy. Marty, which are better pasties, the Caliva Cafe in Hancock or the Swomey Bakery in Houghton? I've had them both, and I'm not sure. Are they both made in their own kitchens? Because there are a lot of places in the UP that use the same suppliers. And you'll notice the pasties are, interestingly, quite similar in many of those restaurants. So I'm not sure. Those are all very, very good pasties. The Caliva Cafe, I've eaten there many times, in Hancock, of course, and the Swomey Bakery in Houghton, which is across the canal on the other side. So did not eat either one on this last trip, but Mr. Phil, 1969, Justice is truly blind. Yeah, and believe it or not, at one point in time, there was at least 2 judges I knew of, one in Bay City, likewise, who was blind. And, decent judges. So Harvey Wiseman, does one have to be a lawyer to defend someone else in court, or can one be someone's power of attorney? No, power of attorney is a different thing altogether. A power of attorney literally means that you have a document that expresses to the court or somebody else that you can act in someone's stead. So a lot of times in the old days, a lawyer would show up and go, I'm here on behalf of so-and-so. Nowadays, you hear about it a lot of times like in medical situations. And so if you are going to go under surgery, for instance, and there's a chance that you might not come out the other end, you can sign a power of attorney and say, if I don't come out, this person can make medical decisions on my behalf. Or power of attorney can also be someone can sign documents on my behalf. So let's suppose that you wanted to buy real estate in another state, but you couldn't go there personally. You could send somebody with power of attorney, and they can sign documents on your behalf. But power of attorney does not equate to being able to stand up in court and defend somebody. Nick Jack, I like your videos, mate. Thank you. Bond, James, Lehto, growing a beard again? We're thinking about it. This is me thinking about it for about a week. We'll see. Jan Coburn, Tony's Pasties in Laurium. I was in Laurium. I don't know about Tony's Pasties. I'll have to check that out. Steve Hudeman, best pasties are in Calumet at Connie's Kitchen, homemade for sure. I also like Muldoon's pasties in Munising. And Muldoon's is right there in the main drag as you go through Munising at the west end of town. Very, very good. But again, they're all of the good pasties are up near the top. Ed Libertor, hi Steve, a vacation in the UP last month. How do you pronounce Ontanogan, Toivola, and Kuna? Thanks. Yeah, those are. It's Ontanogan. Ontanogan is a native name. Ontanogan is over by the Porcupine Mountains. A lot of people think Ontanogan or Ontanogan, but Ontanogan. Toivola is a Finnish name, and because it's Finnish, you hit the first syllable hard. Toivola. And Toivola is a small town, kind of between Ontanogan and Copper Harbor, along that road there. Twin Lakes, Winona, and a few others. And Kuna. Now, some people say Kuna, and they actually hit the W-E-E a little harder, but I pronounce it like it's the letter Q, na, Kuna. So that'll get you by. But Ontanogan, a couple others up there. Baraga was named after a priest whose real name was Baraga, but the Finns say Baraga, and everyone says Baraga now. And Escanaba is the other one, Escanaba. And Johnny Knoxville knows all about Escanaba. So Gary Maness, wasn't SCOTUS supposed to take up qualified immunity this session? I'm not sure. I don't actually pay that close attention to the cases that go in. I pay more attention when they come back out. The Supreme Court sometimes takes a case that looks like they could settle everything, and instead they punt on it. So I've stopped really anticipating what they're going to do. I wait until they actually issue them. So Bart Foster, aren't pasties the things that cover nipples? Yes, pasties are a body covering. A pasty is a foodstuff. Some people do call them pasties, but they're wrong. It's pasty. Doug Dirty Imp, are any of the Detroit pasty places any good? Barb's Pasties and Clausen are good, but I don't actually know of any others in the Detroit area. I wouldn't be surprised if they're around, though. Marty, how about the big city of Gay, Michigan? Yeah, Gay, Michigan's up in the Keweenaw Peninsula also, but it's off the main drag. And there's a bar there called The Gay Bar, and it's just a place on a map. So very, very cool. 1J Twister, what's the demonym for folks in the chat here? Laytonians? Laytites? Stevians? Laytoslabovians? I don't know. Pissed off handicap guy says, try pronouncing Wisconsin city names. No. It seems every region's got their own, There's a bunch of crazy ones in Florida, a bunch of crazy ones in New York. Some of the ones back east, like Maine or Massachusetts. And Wisconsin's got a bunch, although Wisconsin's also got Frog Station. Frog Station. I went through Frog Station one time. Very small town. Frog Station, Wisconsin. Well, Bill 57, yeah, you can get arrested for that, confusing pasties and pasties. Gary Maness, we call him possum pie. I wouldn't be surprised if you could make a pasty with possum. CP Bryce, just watched The Rainmaker again. I've watched it once or twice. Can't say I it didn't do a whole lot for me. Blaze and Cyrus, hello all. Good to see you, Steve. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for checking in. Toad Hop, Indiana. Is that a real place? Kirk Freeman? Toad Hop, Indiana? Not Frog Hop, Toad Hop? Oh, boy. JB Weld, we're all Lehto's lawyers. That's true. You take Lehto's law and you put an ER on it. That's a perfectly acceptable way to create a demonym. Or you can put an ander on the end of it. Lehto's Slazander. CBAT846 says, I've been to Finland. You've got one on me. I have not. My mother and father have been there many times, but I have not been. Someday I will. Veru Kusaki86, have you been to New Orleans? No, I have not. I've never been to New Orleans. Daniel Kester, I bet you're glad you don't do family law. You got that right. I know people who do divorce work and they enjoy it. And I'm like, I don't know how it's possible. Someone's got to, right? The idea, it's bad enough having clients who are angry at the other side. Try divorce law. What do you get? Dwayne Buck, late to the podcast. Guess late is better than not at all. Hope all are doing well. Thank you for checking in, my friend. I appreciate that. Kirk Freeman says, Toad Hop is just outside of Terre Haute. Terre Haute, I believe that's correct. Terre Haute. Kotax, he said, I want to fly into Helsinki, rent a car, just drive around and get good and lost. Jeffrey T, at least pronounced New Orleans correctly. Yeah, New Orleans, I understand, is just basically just kind of like just New Orleans. And it almost becomes Narlands. Keith Green, I am an unpaid non-liar. Oh, it's been a long show. Keith Green, I am an unpaid non-lawyer spokesperson. Johnny Knoxville, Melbourne, Australia is pronounced Melbourne. Melbourne. Oh boy. Diana Goodrich, the Thailand swastika represents peace. Yeah, many people don't know the swastika actually predates World War II and actually meant good luck in some cultures. It was simply co-opted and taken over by those in Germany. So, Gary Monesti, lawyers that flunk the bar become bad cops. You know, I don't know. I know a couple people who never passed the bar. And they've gone into varying things, but most of them tried to use their legal training. But I know some cops who became lawyers. I'm not sure if that's a career progression or not. James Chamelix Zaphod says yes to Zaphod. Ed G, are you considering doing another evening live stream? I'm not sure about that. Bob, blah, blah. What's the Monty Python line about pronounced? Yeah, the guy's name is Raymond Luxury Yacht, but it's pronounced Throat Wobbler Mangrove, I believe. I could be wrong about those, but something like that. So we're getting near the end of the show. I will tell you this. I mentioned before that I have a friend who is a big guy in the media, and he's also a guy who helps me a lot with my stuff. And he is launching a website and an app that is pretty cool. And it's called mymytv.com. Okay, mymytv.com. I'm going to type it in here for you. mymytv.com. And the first my is MY. The second my is MI. And it's for My Michigan. Okay? When was this recorded? It's being recorded right now. This is still live. Thanks for asking. And MyTV is going to be an app that you can have on your phone, desktop, TV, and it's going to be a channel of stuff devoted to, related to, or somehow connected to Michigan. Okay? So not everyone in this room is from Michigan. I understand that. But a lot of people are, but also a lot of people seem to enjoy the stuff I talk about in Michigan. So I am going to be one of the hosts on mymytv.com. It's going to start in the next few weeks. I don't know when, but when it starts, I will be on daily, Monday through Friday, all week long, for at least an hour a day, maybe two, depends on what Dave talks me into doing. So I'm doing live shows on MyTV. I don't know if I'll be doing the live streams on Saturdays or not. I might try to do them. It just depends whether they get burned out or not. Okay? But what I'd like you to do right now, if you could, just humor the guy with the beard. Go to mymytv.com and take a look at it right now, bookmark it. And I know the app is available now from iTunes, but it's not available yet for Android. But all of that, they're rolling it out right now. So when it goes live, I'll be one of the people on it, and I'll talk about it here. And yes, 1J Twister doesn't have chat. It's going to have an interactive functionality to it. I can't get quite into it just yet because I don't know enough about it. I haven't done it yet. But we're going to be doing this. Gary, are you going to be answering this now or earlier? I'll get to that 20 minutes ago. So mymytv.com is going to launch shortly. And when I'm there, we'll be doing something very similar to this, but on that. Same set even, okay? So if you want more of this, mymytv.com is where you're going to do it, okay? So there you go. But we've been on now for well over an hour and a half. My brain is doing this right now, so I'm done. I'm going to go right now, lay down, and see if this will grow in a little more. Hopefully, I'll be back next Saturday. But if not, like I said, check out mymytv.com, blah, blah, blah. Is there an IPO? Not yet, but you never know. Thanks for asking. So I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.